think, draw some of the traffic that's on the bypass up to here. So it's also an economic thing that needs to be looked at from the standpoint of DOT. But this road here is a very inexpensive road to try to six-lane the bypass, which eventually will have to be widened out anyway. But this road here would do a lot to assist in reducing the time delays, because right now, if you want to get from this part of the county over here, you've got to come down the bypass and come back up.
Yeah. I want to say something quickly. You know, I know there's lots of pressure on any local SPLOST that y'all pass here. And you probably, just like any other county, you divide your pie up among potentially new jails, parks, libraries. But, you know, I'm a transportation guy. I would advise you to put as much money out of that SPLOST in transportation as you can. Like I said before, revenues right now are down. And our projections are not looking good. So, you know, don't be scared to be as aggressive as possible with using SPLOST money on transportation. I tell every county that if you want to progress as a county, transportation should be one of your number one priorities in the SPLOST.
Let me piggyback those remarks, guys. A lot of times we've got a long list that we're going to have to decide, or DOT's going to decide. These are projects that have been put on the list for years. The locals generally have to have a 20% match, is that right? Is it 20% generally speaking?
Depends on what kind of project.
Right. And the problem is so many communities, when push comes to shove, they don't have their 20% ready. And I think sometimes, you know, the SPLOST can help with that. Additionally, and help me, because I'm learning the importance of some of these projects down the road, of perhaps seeking some federal assistance as well. So we've got a partnership on the federal, the local with the skin in the game, as well as the state. Todd, do you feel like that's a good strategic long-term plan?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. You know, as any county grows, you've got to lay out what your priorities are. And you can't get everything done. You know, your goal is to, what is this next step? Step one is this, step two is this, and you got to pace yourself.
Bypass.
My opinion.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, any remarks?
Yes, one remark. We did go to Washington to see the senators and the congressmen with these three main projects: the Westover extension, the Leesburg bypass, and the Forester extension. Seeing if they could get some money into the transportation bill. And we made a strong emphasis on the Leesburg bypass. Like Bob says, we got 90 school buses coming into Leesburg every day. Every one of them has to stop at the railroad crossing. The citizens that live in Leesburg have a tremendous problem getting in and out of their driveways. The town goes from 3,000 people to over 10,000 every day. But we discussed these three projects with the senators and the congressmen with emphasis on the Leesburg bypass.
I want to take a moment to address this. We find that happens a lot in communities, and I welcome you guys to have great relationships with your congressmen, senators, and Mr. Floyd will recognize, he'll appreciate this comment. When senators or representatives earmark funds on particular projects, it does not bring more money to Georgia. It puts the decision-making process of projects in the hands of congressmen as opposed to the hands of state and locals. So you gotta be careful of that.
Yes.
And listen, that's fine. The earmarking days, I think, are fixing to be gone. They're not gonna do as many earmarks this next bill. Of course, we say that now always. But that's the goal, is not to have as many earmarks, because ultimately earmarks, because let's say he gave you $1 million on Leesburg, well, that's not enough. We have that all over the state with the congressmen. They'll give you some seed money on a project, and it's not enough to do projects that didn't do you a whole lot of good. So earmark does not, they just dedicate some of the federal funds coming to us for particular projects. And, you know, we like the fact that the state DOT working with local partners can pick projects as opposed to letting, and most of the congressmen don't want to pick the project. They don't want to get in that business, because then everybody's up there seeing them every day. But sometimes earmarks are great, and they get a project jump-started, no doubt. But just, I wanted to put that caveat out there. Mr. Ford, you probably know what I'm talking about. I think you would agree with that. It happens a lot. So,
Mr. Mayor, any thoughts? Then we need to.
No, the bypass thinks it's gonna be a great thing. It's gonna really help the city out, reduce a lot of traffic. Anything to get done faster, better. what we're doing now is not gonna do anything to make it a little bit easier. The traffic's still coming, we gotta get traffic out of town.
I'm gonna report back to the engineers that, you guys are okay with this, we're gonna go full steam ahead. It's got right-of-way money in fiscal 11, which is just around the corner, if you know, we're in fiscal year, so, it looks like that right-of-way money, probably the amount that's maybe a little bit less, because you're not doing quite as big an interchange, but still, you're buying bigger right-of-way, so they've got to do a little bit of environmental work on this new piece, so I'll tell them to get busy, and then what Matt and I'll do is work on the next update of the STIP document, the TIP, to try to bring construction money in sooner.
Well, 2-lane makes a lot of sense, because you're connecting a 2-lane 195, I mean, so.
Anybody else got any questions of Mr. Long?
Let me make a statement about what he said. At some point, this project would go to a public hearing. And traditionally, we go to public hearing, we hear from all those folks that are against it. It just happens. And so if y'all are in favor of this project, the way it's being proposed, we would like for y'all to come out to the public hearing. And if you're for it, then say you're for it. You know, if you're against it, say you're against it.
We had a public hearing, and the main problem was the person whose house the road goes through wanted to know the timeframe, because they didn't know if they had paint or not.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Commissioner, I personally, I can't speak for Representative Hanna or Senator Crosby, but personally, you know, I certainly think that what I hear this morning is good news, but I would encourage you to bring that with your council and your county commission, because as you know, we've experienced in the past sometimes where you feel like you have the blessing, and then after the fact, then comes the Monday morning quarterbacking, and I prefer to eliminate the Monday morning quarterbacking. And let's hear it up front so we can deal with it as opposed to being second guessed after the fact. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna, leave for somebody a card I have or something, y'all are welcome to call me anytime, and when you come to Atlanta, y'all may have, local assistance for state aid projects, you wanna see the commissioner about those, make sure I get invited out as well, we can talk about your federal aid projects and STIPs and other things as well.
And we got some stimulus concerns that are going on. Mr. Long, do you want to address that real quick?
Yeah, just quickly, you know, Georgia, our share of the stimulus money was a little over $900 million. And we identified a number of projects around the state, on state routes, resurfacing. There are a lot of strings attached to stimulus money. It's 100% federal funds, but you had to get them out the door quickly. And we decided to do all construction, so we had to do projects that were shovel-ready, ready to go. So we had probably $2 or $3 billion in requests from local governments around the state. And as we're going through trying to decide, you know, which projects to do, and on local assistance, we've tended to just focus in on those projects that were really absolutely ready to go. Some of the locals are saying bridge replacement projects, and bridge, well, listen, those have environmental issues on them, so we stuck it basically to resurfacing. We are, you know, trying to finalize our stimulus list and get the governor certification on that. The goal is to have everything under let contract, or awarded to contract, some part of the new year. By federal guidelines, it's got to be, money's got to be authorized, I think, by March, which we're trying to have products in the December, January timeframe to get them all done. So we're trying to finalize that final list now. We're still tweaking it here and there. And so you're pointing to a project.
Yeah, this is New York, this is almost a 5-mile section, and then there's another section over here on Pinewood that is under stimulus program.
We did agree to do some off-system, non-state route resurfacing roads around the state, and Lee County was one we targeted. So we're trying to finalize that list still, and if you got any input, you know, obviously talk to me, or you can see Representative Ryder's lot, so just hit him up too, and he can call me.
Thank you, Todd. We're, you know, it's real close to let's making things happen, but we want to make sure we're all on the same page and those kind of things. Make sure that they can get done, because there's still some tweaking to be done. Anyway, we had a presentation, I think.
Mr. Long, Mr. Floyd, we appreciate you being in Lee County to participate in this meeting. We have a small token of our appreciation.
Well, thank you very much.
One for Mr. Long and one for Mr. Floyd.
All right. We're good. I'm gonna be sick tonight, right?
Yes, sir.
Pretty much know this all.